Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back for another Boot Hill module review. This time, I've got Boot Hill number 3, Ballots and Bullets, for you tonight. I believe this was by David James Ritchie. I'm not really familiar with the name, but he did a really good job on this one, despite some glaring problems. At least running it today. Back in the day, this probably, for die-hard Boot Hill fans, was probably a very interesting adventure. Although there's very little in the way of actual adventure, as you may have guessed from the title, Ballots and Bullets. It's a very political scenario. It takes place in the 1800s, obviously, in Cochise County in Arizona, in a place called Promise City, which is drawn up in very nice detail. There's over 200 or just under 200 locations, various, typical saloons and hotels and barns and doctor's offices, and there's the sheriff and all the typical things you'd expect from a western town, stock full with hundreds of NPCs all statted out, the whole bit for you. Every building, every location is also statted out very nicely in a sort of a pull-out section on this gray page format. Rather dark, not to my liking, but it does distinguish it from the rest of the book, which is, believe it or not, only about 30 pages. And then actually it's not really a pull-out section. I thought it was, but it's not. Along with the NPC lists, with all the pertinent information, and it also divides them up into the two factions. There's a law-abiding citizens faction made up of, to be honest, quite a large number of scumbags, and the cowboy faction, which of course is the side you should be backing in this particular political endeavor, which is a 12-week cycle of an election. The town needs a new mayor, 5 councilmen, and a new marshal. And it's the law and order. The law and order candidates and the cowboy candidates. Excuse me. And the module goes through all the events of the 12-week cycle up into the day of election, and some things that can happen afterwards, as well as a few interesting sort of, I want to call them encounters for lack of a better terminology, things that can happen during the 12-week period. There's a total of 7 of them, and it's really not enough to fill the time and break up the monotony of canvassing the town, buying drinks for the locals, and holding rallies and all that sort of thing. Like I said, back in the day, this might have been a whole lot of fun. Today, especially since we are in our own election cycle, it's probably not the adventure you're looking for. For collectors, obviously it's something you're going to want to have in your collection. And if you're looking at it for any other reason, you can get the PDF on various places for free. You can even have it printed out, I believe, through drive-through if that's what you're looking for. And mind you, my copy is well over 40 years old, and the spine, it's doing better than most of the other modules I have, mostly because nobody wanted to run it after they read through it. They're like, yeah, I'm not interested in doing a 12-week election cycle for NPCs that you really have to build up on your own. They're statted out, and there's a little bit of references here and there, but they're just numbers on a page. And you're going to really, really have to do more work than most GMs today are willing to do for something like this. Now, there is a small chance that the players themselves could form an independent branch to try and run for the mayor and the councilman and the marshal of this town. But unless you're getting ready to retire from the adventuring, profession, what's the point? Stopping here along your way to somewhere else might be interesting for a week, and then you're probably going to want to get the heck out of Dodge. I really was hoping more from this. The art's fine, the writing is fine. It's not as good as the previous modules that I reviewed. The writing was far superior. This one's okay, but it's real bland, real dry. Mostly matter of fact, just statements, no embellishment, no flowery prose, nothing like that. All in all, this so far is my least favorite Boot Hill module, and to be honest, it's my least favorite module I've ever read for you guys. Now, I wanted to read it for myself as well because it is in my collection, and I don't like having books that I've never read. And like I said, it was only 32 pages. Fair enough. I read it. I reviewed it. I'm going to shelve it, put it back where it came from, and never think about it again. Now, if you guys out there in TV land think otherwise, I'd love to hear why you would be interested in running a game like this, but I really don't see it ever seeing the light of day at anybody's table. It's really just a product of its time, that being the 80s, where things were a lot less intense when it comes to politics. And as we know, most gamers do not want to bring any sort of politics into their games, and this one does it in spades. And it also really doesn't shy away from who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, and or what political party they would represent nowadays. It's pretty obvious. I'm not going to call it a disappointment. I knew more or less what I was getting in by reading the back of it. Just for shits and giggles, I'll read what it says. They're stealing the ballot box, and vote theft is only one of the perils stalking the town when the folks of Promise City must choose between ballots and bullets. It's 1882, and Cochise County, Arizona, is the wildest part of the Wild West. Rustlers are everywhere. Indians and bad men lurk in the hills. Robbers are common. Against this setting, two hostile political factions struggle for control of tiny Promise City, and you are there as a gunman or a lawman, a hired hand, or a campaign worker, or as a candidate for office. Inside this module, you'll find complete material for a 12-week political campaign, 213 detailed building descriptions and a map of Promise City, 300 individual character descriptions of the town's residents, 7 fast-playing scenarios. You'll also discover how to scare off opposition voters, how to handle loudmouth hecklers, how to hold political rallies, how to stuff the ballot box, and much, much more. A little misleading. Like I said, the townsfolk are not very well described. The map is fine. The 7 fast play scenarios are literally a paragraph or 3 of a small situation, which, to be honest, most of those situations boil down to a gunfight between 2 to 3 to 7 NPCs, players, what have you. Very, very small little scenarios that would be fine for running as just a miniature war game campaign sort of thing, and maybe run it more like that. You could, hustle through it a lot more, and maybe throw in a lot more, showdowns at high noon kind of thing. Otherwise, not my cup of tea. And this is coming from a guy who's incredibly political, as you guys all know. I just don't see this being worth the time, unless unless the Wild West is your thing, and you've got a posse of guys who are just dying to play it and see how it turns out. I'd give it a pass, unless you're a collector. Otherwise, let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I've given you my 2 cents, and that's about all it's worth, to be honest. So until next time, folks, have a great evening. Have a great rest of your week. I will see you guys probably Friday, where I will be reading what, for me, looks like possibly the best of the 5 adventure modules for Boot Hill, that being Burn Bush Wells, a shootout out in the snow, reminiscent of one of my favorite Western movies of all times, The Great Silence. I hope you guys will check that one out as well. Thanks for stopping by. We love you guys, and until next time, happy trails.